Today you become a late Ming Yangzhou thin horse, a girl bred and sold for her beauty. At 9, I was bought cheap out of a famine by a flesh trader, trained into a commodity of arts and graces, and sold at a high price to a salt merchant as his concubine, favored for half a life, and then sold off again. I was born in the 48th year of the Wanli reign outside Suzhou city of Guizhou on the north bank of the Huai River, into a poor farming family, my father renting 3 thin mu of land from a landlord, the 5 of us scraping by all year on sweet potatoes and coarse grain. When I was 5, the Huai River burst its dikes and flooded our whole field. That year's entire harvest was soaked away in the muddy water, and our family lived the whole winter on wild herbs and thin gruel. When I was 7, a locust plague struck northern Anhui again, and nothing grew. The landlord came demanding rent, and my father knelt in the doorway kowtowing for more time. And that night my mother held me and my little brother weeping by the stove for a long while. In the first year of the Tianqi reign, when I was 9, the Yangzhou flesh trader Granny Wang sailed through the northern Huai villages collecting young girls. She glanced at me at the village edge and took out silver to buy me on the spot and carry me off to Yangzhou. When my father took Granny Wang's 5 fragments of broken silver, his hands shook so badly he could barely hold them, and my mother pressed a coarse cloth amulet she had sewn herself into my collar, telling me to live well once I reached Yangzhou. I was carried by Granny Wang's boat all the way to the Thin Horse House in the south of Yangzhou City. The old procuress, Madame Li, entered my name into a register, and from that day I no longer had my old name, only a flower name in its place. In my first year in the trade, I learned the rules, woken before dawn each day to practice my standing and walking posture, Madame Li balancing a thick book on my head and making me carry a tea tray the full length of the veranda. When I was 10, my foot binding began. Madame Li hired an old woman who wrapped long cloth around my feet inch by inch and broke them, and for half a year I bit the bedding every night in pain, not daring to make a sound. When I was 11, I began to learn the qin. The master Chin the house hired said my fingers were well made, and he taught me the piece wild geese, descending on the sandbank from beginning to end carefully across an entire year. When I was 12, I learned to paint. The painting master the house hired made me copy a meticulous flower and bird painting every day, saying a thin horse sells not only her face, but a whole body of arts fit for refined company. When I was 13, the girl Ah Chiao who shared my room could never master the game of Weiqi. Madame Li, fearing she was too dull to fetch a good price, pressed her down on the veranda before us all and beat her 20 10 strokes as a warning to the rest. When I was 14, I learned needlework and embroidery, the brewing of tea and the burning of incense. Madame Li saying a first-rate thin horse must play and paint and write and embroider before she is fit to enter a salt merchant's inner household as a noble concubine. When I was 15, Madame Li cut 3 new dresses of Hangzhou silk for me and had the finest jeweler in the city make me a pair of silver hairpins, saying she would present me to buyers as top-grade goods. At the end of my 15th year, Madame Li led me into the front hall for buyers to choose. Several matchmakers brought salt merchant household stewards who studied my brows and eyes, my hands and feet, the way one inspects a horse at a livestock market. In the 6th year of Tianqi, when I was 16, the greatest salt merchant in Yangzhou, Lord Wang, took one look and chose me. And on the spot he laid out 1,200 taels of silver to buy me out of the Thin Horse House at a high price as his concubine. I was carried in a small red sedan chair from the Thin Horse House in the south of the city into the inner residence of the Wang Mansion, where Lord Wang set aside a small riverside courtyard just for me, planted full of peonies he had brought specially from Suzhou. Lord Wang loved most to hear me play the qin, and at every banquet he held in the garden hall, he had me come out in full dress to play a piece, and all the wealthy salt merchants gathered said the new concubine of the Wang house was the most beautiful and gifted in all Yangzhou. In the first year of the Chongzhen reign, when I was 18, I bore a son, and Lord Wang, overjoyed beyond measure, held a 3-day feast and rewarded me with a pair of pure white jade bracelets, saying that from then on my word would carry the most weight in the inner household. In those years, the Wang family's salt license trade grew enormous, From the salt fields of southern Huai to the salt depots of the north, every sign bore the Wang name. And when Lord Wang went out, even the prefect would clasp his hands and yield to him. When I was 20, Lord Wang held a flower viewing banquet for me on Slender West Lake. The whole pleasure boat hung with colored lanterns, and every wife of note in Yangzhou vied to strike up a friendship with me. When I was 22, I began to manage the accounts of the inner household. The monthly wages of the dozens of servants and the seasonal cloth allowances all passed through my hands, signed and sealed by me before going to the counting room to be stored. When my son was 6, Lord Wang engaged a renowned scholar to teach him in the family school, and at every festival I sat beside Lord Wang holding the child, already half the mistress of the Wang house in all but name. In those years I thought I had finally come out on top, that a poor girl sold out of the northern Huai famine could, after all, eat fine food, or fine silk, and give orders in the most respectable salt merchant's mansion in Yangzhou. In the 8th year of Chongjin, when I was 25, Lord Wang took in another young thin horse, a girl of only 16, younger even than I had been, and overnight the wind in the household changed direction. The principal wife of the Wang house, Lady Qian, childless for years, had long resented me, and the moment the new girl entered, she used her authority over the household to press me down at every turn, first cutting the monthly wage and the charcoal supply of my courtyard. Lady Qian then whispered in Lord Wang's ear that I had lined my own pockets while keeping the books, pulling out my ledgers one by one to examine before everyone, until the silver I had saved the Wang house became the proof of my embezzlement. In the 10th year of Chongjin, the court overhauled the salt law of the 2 Huai regions and audited the unpaid salt levies, and the salt licenses the Wang family had hoarded for generations were voided overnight, the back taxes alone draining away more than half the Wang family's fortune. Lord Wang, in his distress, fell ill from an old ailment and took to his bed, and from then on all matters great and small in the house were decided by Lady Qian alone, and no one ever came again to add a fresh brazier of charcoal to my riverside courtyard. In the 12th year of Chongjin, Lord Wang died, and before the funeral was even over, Lady Qian took away my pair of white jade bracelets and all the jewelry of my years, saying they were always the Wang family's and not for a concubine like me to carry off. Lady Qian meant to enter my son under her own name as the legitimate heir to carry on the Wang line. Yet she could not abide me, his birth mother, remaining in the house, for what she wanted was the child and never me at all. I knelt before the Wang ancestral shrine begging Lady Qian to let me stay and care for the boy, but she only said coldly that the Wang house could not feed an idle concubine, and had the steward bring a bond of sale and spread it open before my eyes. Outside the shrine, I looked at my son one last time, held tightly in the wet nurse's arms and only daring to steal glances at me, Lady Qian standing between us, forbidding him to call me mother even once, and that was the last time mother and son ever saw each other. Lady Qian had that same Granny Wang sell me out of the mansion, and Granny Wang looked me up and down a long while and shook her head, saying a used woman who had borne a child was worth 200 taels at most, less than half the price I had been bought for. That night Granny Wang led me out the back gate of the Wang mansion, and I looked back at the small riverside courtyard where I had lived 9 years, its peonies blooming full on every branch, and not a single lamp was left burning for me. Granny Wang sold me on to a pawnshop owner named Sun in the west of the city as a second wife, Sun more than 20 years older than me and violent of temper, and in my very first month I tasted how he would smash things and beat people when drunk. The Sun house too had a fierce principal wife who, seeing I had come from a salt merchant's household as a former concubine, guarded against me at every turn, forcing me to rise before dawn to cook for the whole family and sweep the courtyard, and no one cared any longer to hear the qin and painting I had learned. In the 17th year of Chongjin, the Qing army marched south and reached the walls of Yangzhou, and Sun abandoned his household, fleeing south alone by night with his gold and valuables, leaving me and his principal wife in the city to fend for ourselves. In the first year of Hongguang, in the 4th month, the Qing army broke into Yangzhou and let its soldiers slaughter and plunder for 10 days. and I hid in the cellar of a ruined nunnery outside the city for 10 whole days, surviving the calamity on half a jar of rainwater and a sack of dry rations. When I crawled out of the cellar, Yangzhou City was a scorched ruin, the Sun pawn shop burned to ashes, and the principal wife who had beaten and cursed me for years had died under the soldiers' blades, buried I knew not where. With nowhere to go, I sought refuge at a charity hall beside Chiling Temple that took in women and children, where I washed and mended clothes for a bowl of gruel. And in those years I often dreamed at night of the son the Wang house had taken from me. In the 3rd year of Xuanji, a newly widowed Huizhou woman came to the charity hall with a sum of savings, saying she wished to open anew in Yangzhou a house for training thin horses, and seeing that I understood the qin and painting and the rules, she invited me to partner with her and help. I hesitated a long while but agreed in the end, for besides this body of skills I had been trained into, I had no other way to survive in such a chaotic age, and so fate pushed me back to where I had begun. In the 6th year of Xuanji, when I was 40, the new house opened, and among the first girls bought in were several sold out of the northern Hui famine, and the timid way they stood before the hall was exactly as I had once stood myself. I taught them the qin and writing, deportment and the rules, and set my own rules after the manner Madame Li had once kept me. Yet sometimes when I raised the rattan cane in my hand, I remembered the nights I had been beaten and softened my hand after all. Among the girls I trained, the most beautiful was bought at a high price by a Yangzhou salt merchant as his concubine, and before she left she knelt and kowtowed to me in thanks, and watching her departing figure I could not tell whether I should be glad or grieved. In the 12th year of Xuanji, when I was 46, I sent someone to the Wang house to ask after my son, and word came back that the boy had long since been raised to manhood by Lady Qian, married with children of his own, never knowing his birth mother was a thin horse. I dug out from the bottom of my chest the coarse cloth amulet my mother had sewn. The cloth long rotted away to a single corner, and only then did I realize that the year I was sold out of Boizhou, I had been no more than 9, the same age as the girls now before my hall. I sewed that one tattered corner of the amulet into the collar of a newly bought girl, saying nothing at all, just as my mother had pressed it into mine all those years ago, hoping she might live a little longer on this road. This is the life of a late Ming Yangzhou thin horse. If you too have ever been priced and labeled by fate, leave a comment. Next episode, Choose A Ming Dynasty registered courtesan of the Music Bureau, or B, a Qing Dynasty palace made of the Yuanminjuan. Vote in the comments. This film is a fictional dramatization for entertainment only.